Okay, and apparently we're live.
Yes, sir.
Hi there. Sorry for the inconvenience. Sorry for letting you guys wait. But Windows did it again, and I got an update, and it won't recognize my mic. Like, where's that coming from? I don't know. But nonetheless, we're here, and I'm again here with Angel from um, what's it? I just had it. Intimate Moments podcast. This whole mic thing. Shit. It got me all confused. Yeah. We're here. Of course, we're movie lovers. Um, Angel over here is even a director. Me, I'm just a fan. I'm just on the other side of the silver screen, sitting there enjoying all the content, all the movies, all the series that are coming out. Well, actually not enjoying all of it, but some of them. And yeah, welcome to our second live. I know you want to say something.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, what's up, everyone? Yeah, welcome. We've got a packed show today, right?
We
We
do.
going to be diving into Thunderbolts, the return of Final Destination, and some Mission Impossible chatter. And of
Yeah.
course, our predictions of Ballerina. Like,
Mm,
how much John Wick are we actually getting? And is this thing gonna be a hit or a flop?
yeah.
Plus we are throwing out a wild box office prediction for Avengers Doomsday. Yep.
Mm.
We're talking about 2 billion level bold. Well, I definitely do,
Yeah,
okay?
that's not happening. That's what they
Yeah.
think is happening, but we're getting to that
Yeah.
later.
We'll see. And we'll wrap it up with what we're looking forward to and probably go off on
Yeah,
some random tangents too, like always, But
yeah.
yeah, let's get right into it.
Let's get right into it. So, what did you think about Thunderbolts?
All right. I called you yesterday, right? And I
Right.
told you
Yeah,
I
we
got
didn't
actually
talk.
got yeah, I actually got a little bit I not a little I got emotional, I gotta be real.
Yeah.
I think that I didn't think that it was gonna hit me like that.
Mm,
I went in expecting the usual Marvel stuff, the action, the team up and the
yeah.
energy and stuff like that. Of course, you
Yeah.
had some sarcasm, and it had all that. But what really struck to
Yeah.
me was the emotional side of the movie. It actually went pretty deep, especially when it
Yeah.
came to
Totally.
mental health.
Yeah.
You could really feel the weight of some of these characters and what they were carrying, like the regret, the trauma, and just trying to live with the stuff they've done, or what happened to them in their past.
Yep.
There's this one character, and I won't spoil it, but man, the way that they showed his depression and how lost he felt, it felt
Mm,
really real. It
yeah.
wasn't over the top, it wasn't forced either. It just felt really honest. And like these
Yeah.
aren't just like superheroes. They people trying to figure out how to keep going. And I'll be
Mm,
honest, it got me very emotional. I didn't expect that at all. Did you feel that too? Like, did it hit you in that
yeah.
way? Because I think that's what made the movie so stand out. Really, it had something deeper under all the usual Marvel stuff, and it just was mind blowing. Like I was crying, I was crying.
well,
Yeah,
I wasn't crying, but I was shocked how real some of the things with mental health were going because
hmm
I well, I went through phases of my life, but I know there are people out there who definitely had major issues and went out to seek a professional. And I totally respect those people. Myself, like I didn't go through like existential crisis or something like that, but I know there's people out there, and I've talked to people
yeah,
who already went through that. And I like though how sometimes you have regrets, and when you're trying to remove them, there are some pretty unique scenes, I think,
hmm
at least for me, how they dealt with that. And yeah, really, it's one of those who really go deep.
hmm
Another one I think, and I also put that in my review, is I guess the third Guardians of the Galaxy. That is a movie, like it's great, but I don't have to watch it over and over and over. It's just too much. Like, oh my
hmm
god, it's really. it's really grabbing you by the feels, and it's not letting you go for a long time. And yeah,
Mhm.
for me, like I like those themes. I like that they were so bold and went to explore all of those themes. But then again, like I thought for it to be a really good movie, I thought it was way too much all over the place. They're trying too many things at the same time. I don't know if you had the
Mhm.
similar experience, but yeah, really not a funny movie, but it's kind of marketed that way.
Yeah.
It is funny at times, but then like it is way too dark for that.
Right.
And for me, it was that it was yeah, it couldn't decide what it wanted to be, and it's really important that you you um you try to find your own recipe.
Mhm.
And I think the director or I don't know the producers on that one, they kind of fumbled that. Is it a bad movie? No, I wouldn't say it's a bad movie, but I think it's just yeah, it's scratching the line of being something really unique and something important.
Mhm.
But it doesn't do a necessarily bad job. So I'm kind of on the fence about it.
What would you rate it
Can't really
from a
say.
1 to 10?
From 1 to 10. I don't know. I would probably rate it maybe a 6.5, something like that.
Okay.
Rather on the good
Okay.
side, but I wouldn't say that I watch it and say, hey, it's a great movie. It's definitely getting you by the feels. And like I said before, I don't have the experience, but I've also had like real low points in my life, and it reminded me of those. And without dropping too many spoilers, I thought how they dealt with all the trauma, how they dealt with all those low points in their lives. I thought it was
Mhm.
really original, and I liked it how
Yep.
raw it was. Like I'd really love to drop some spoilers, but yeah, I
Mhm.
know that it's pretty new, and maybe we can get into it at a later live stream, um, sometime else. But like really, it's I thought how it the darker the darker scenes and the
Mhm.
scenes really you know um talking about the depression parts. I thought they were really done well. It was just the
Yeah.
mixture of all the how
Yep.
they sprinkle it throughout the movie. That's what I thought. Yeah.
Mhm. Yeah, I think they could have done definitely some improvements with the action scenes. I think the
Mm,
fighting scenes were not what I'm used to or what I really enjoy watching. From the very
mm.
beginning, the fighting scenes, that Florence Pugh, I think that's her name.
Yeah.
Pugh or yeah, that
You. Yeah. Yeah.
I wasn't really, yeah, it didn't catch me in the very beginning. Um the fighting scenes, I think throughout the film, they could have been managed much better. To be honest with you, there it wasn't
Mhm.
a great, oh, amazing. Did you see what happened? No, it really wasn't like
Yeah.
that. I think that movie was a little bit more on the serious side when it
Yeah.
comes to like you said, mental health and so forth.
Yeah. No,
Um,
definitely.
yeah, yeah, that for sure. But I think that other than wise, the actors did okay. They did good.
Mhm. Yeah.
I think that the role, what was the lady that played that role? Was it
The
the lady
CI
that worked at the
director,
Senate?
Valentina.
Yeah,
Valentina. Yeah.
Valentina,
It's
yeah.
yeah.
I didn't really like the way that she played her role too much. I think she's a great
Yeah.
actress. I think it's Julia Louis
Dreyfus. Yeah.
Dreyfus,
Yeah.
her name. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
She's a great actress.
From Seinfeld. From Seinfeld.
Yeah, and you know who
Yeah.
she reminded me of?
Who did she
She
remind you of?
reminded me she reminded me of the the Trump appointee for the Justice Department. Do you
Ah,
know
okay.
who I'm talking about? She
Is
reminded
that the
she kind of like
soldier?
has that. Yeah, exactly, exactly.
Right.
Pam Bondi. For some reason, she reminded me of
Right.
Pam Bondi, I think, or or
Yeah.
or 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 the other. I don't recall, but she reminded me of her. The one
Yeah.
that was in the military. It's not Pam Bondi. I'm
Right.
taking it back. The one that was in the military. Yeah. So, but
I I
her
I don't
role,
know the name of her.
yeah,
I was
me
just like,
neither.
yeah,
But
yeah,
it was
that
just
could
like,
be her.
wait, is that her? That was so weird. But it
Rings a
was
bell.
interesting to see. Right, it was interesting to see how they had, the government involved, but it wasn't
Yeah.
even that part with the government involved. It was just, honestly speaking, it was just a little bit too open there. It wasn't really as secretive as I thought
Absolutely.
it would have been.
Yeah.
It was that part of that storyline was a little bit basic to me, to be honest
Yeah.
with you.
Yeah.
Because that storyline was following onto this whole, darkness, trauma, depression side and stuff
Yeah.
like that. I think they could have done it a little bit much more interesting, that side
Mm.
storyline with her and the government involvement and stuff like that. But a little bit more action, a little bit more a thrill, a little bit, a little bit
Yeah.
more tension. But it was almost
Absolutely.
like,
Yeah.
I think they rushed it too, like
Yeah.
when she was trying to train the dude, the
Mm.
government lady. I think they rushed it a little bit, like for 1 second, like she's training him on how to destroy a cup, and then a minute later they all up in that building, like, so it was
Yeah.
like, it was it felt a little rushed towards the end, to be honest with
Yeah.
you.
And with that,
Yeah.
when they're confronting her and him, like without
Yeah.
dropping spoilers, who they all are,
Yeah.
like I thought it was so awkward. Like they
Yes.
tried to build up some tension,
Tension. Yeah.
but
That-
that was so awkward.
I was like, what is going on? Wait a minute. What? That
Yeah,
went really fast. Like, wait a minute. Like, I really think it took away from them actually making him shine and building
yeah,
his character, whether if he's a
yeah,
good guy or bad guy. And
yeah,
there was no momentum, like no leading up to a slow progression towards that
yeah,
momentum, towards him. And I think they took it away from his character.
yeah.
Yeah, I think that
I
was
mean,
just too rushed, and I didn't like it.
the thing is, yeah, I absolutely agree. The thing is with him, like we're not specifying who we mean, but I know the
Yeah.
people who watched it, they know who we're talking about. I think I mean, for describing a character he should be or what he should be built up, like you should kind of take a
Mhm.
school shooter or somebody like that, a quiet kid, like somebody
Mhm.
who's got bullied into being the bad guy, kind of
Mhm.
forced into that role, taking enough
Right.
with the, you know, enough with everything, enough taking shit from everybody, was just at the end of
Right.
the line. And
Right.
they kind of try to show that with
Mhm.
Walker teasing him and all, but it didn't sit well with me. Really, it
Yeah.
went too fast. Like you really need to
Yeah.
show the abuse. Like what are they all taking? Um,
Mhm.
what's going through their minds, like really they went too fast with that. Yeah, absolutely
Yeah.
agree.
They rushed it. Clearly, they
Yeah,
rushed it. I think usually, the Marvel movies are always like there are multiple funny scenes.
yeah.
I think there was really just one funny scene to me. I think, that one guy that, with that accent, who I'm talking about,
Uh-huh.
that was there playing in the beginning. I think they tried to force the comedy aspects from him towards us.
Yeah,
And I think there was only one part where I was just like, okay, this is funny, which was when they were in the limo, and then all of a sudden, freaking, the
yeah,
smoke machine goes off in the limo, and what's his name? Forgot. Genuine Pony started playing. That's when I was just like, that was
yeah.
mad random. I didn't expect that. I thought
It
that was
is.
funny.
There's natural humor out there, and people,
Hmm.
yeah, people need to focus on that natural humor. That's why I hate those laugh tracks. I also had that in my review. Like there's laugh tracks for the series, and by the way, there's also really funny. It's even funnier. There's there's like a series on YouTube of videos where they just took the laugh track from some sitcoms, from some scenes
Hmm.
from sitcoms, and they removed the laugh track, and it has a completely different context. Like like you remove the
Post
laugh
Pro, they had a
track and
lot
the
of
scene
fun.
gets really bad. What's that?
They had a lot of fun during post production.
Yeah, yeah, but the thing is, if you remove the laugh track from some scenes, they turn serious. Of course, they
Hmm.
really turn serious, and there's some videos out there, especially I think from Friends, where they took some scenes, removed the laugh tracks, and
Hmm.
it's heading down an entire different path. Like let's just say that. Yeah, I think the forced humor is a big problem with those Marvel movies. Like
Mhm.
there's scenes which are genuinely funny, and people they make them out to be memes. Like that's not a problem that they're not funny, but those forced in, like here, have like a cheap laugh. That's a real problem with those movies from Marvel. I think that they should cut down a little bit on those, and also
Mhm.
like that movie, it could have some comic relief, but it shouldn't really have that much laughter.
Mhm.
It should provoke you to think about, people like that in your life. Maybe
Yeah.
you know somebody who's going through some shit. Maybe you can help that person. You know,
Mhm.
that's what it does, and it's also with the Guardians of the Galaxies, the movies. Like the first, the second one, they were really easy to watch, but then the third one hit like a bomb. Really, it has some really tough topics in there, and when
Mhm.
you watch that one, you don't think about, when is the next comedic scene coming around. You just think about,
Right.
wow, like that raccoon really went through something, and maybe we should think about animal testing and how we treat animals, and it's really, it's hitting you hard when you watch that one. And yeah, there doesn't
Mhm.
need to be uh yeah, you don't have to have a laugh in every scene. You don't have to have that.
Mhm.
It comes
Yeah, I mean,
naturally.
it does. Yeah. Yeah, it does. I think they could have definitely done better with that. Now, talking about the
Mhm.
production budget for Thunderbolts, okay, I'm gonna hit you with it. The
Oh,
budget was 180 million, okay,
whoa.
and
Yeah.
domestically, the box office performance was opening weekend 74 million,
Mhm.
okay, total gross 178 million. So it cost them about 180 million to make the movie, okay,
Right.
and opening week 74, total gross in the US was 178, and international was actually 68 million, and total gross. So worldwide total gross is 361 million. Now, if
No.
you look at
Yeah.
Guardians of the Galaxy, they made 845 million worldwide, and their budget was
Yeah.
250 million. I mean, that's
Yeah, I
big.
mean that
So,
that speaks
so it's
volume.
a flop. If you think about it,
Yeah. Yeah, it
Thunderbolts
is.
actually was a flop. It was not, not flop flop, but
Yeah,
that
well,
goes to
the
say what we're talking about.
it's that old problem with them, really, because when you think of it, it is not a flop. I mean, it made back its production budget, but then again, like there are so many hidden costs. I don't think if they've adjusted it for the ads that they went, like the press tours and all, if they put all the
Marketing.
advertisement, yeah, the marketing,
Yeah.
if they added it, I don't know, I don't think so. Some of
Hmm.
the stuff they also hide from, like from us looking into it. But then the thing is, their budgets are way too big. Like it didn't come off
Hmm.
to me as a movie that with a 180 million budget. I think that
Yeah.
that was the case with that one. It actually looked pretty, yeah, it looked pretty low budget to me. Not in a
Hmm.
bad way,
Yeah, it
but
did.
compared to others, to other movies, like if you take, like, I don't know, Thor Ragnarok, for example, or like which had like really quirky effects in there and all, like a really effects packed movie. Um, it didn't come off that. I mean, like the shadows and everything. I don't want to drop too many spoilers. It didn't. I thought, like, yeah, of course I could do that too.
Hmm.
No
Hmm.
problem. Like, give me After Effects, give me Adobe Premiere. I could do that too. It didn't seem
Hmm.
to me like it was so much on CGI. Yeah, to make the guy fly. Yeah, it's
Yeah.
not that big of an effort. But then, like, they got 180, and it's just a thing. Maybe we can move that topic over here. Avengers Doomsday, like reportedly, they're aiming towards a goal of 2 billion bucks internationally gross. Yeah, I
Hmm.
mean that's totally ridiculous.
Hmm.
They can for sure say that they're gonna hit that mark, and It's like I read it earlier online. It's worse than a coin flip. The chance on that. It's worse. Like what are they thinking? They need to reduce the budgets. Make more with
I
less.
wonder what they gonna give us with that. You know, what
Yeah.
are they going to give us with that? That's my
Like I think they're just lazy on the
because
CGI.
if you think about it, it's an
Yeah.
Avengers movie, and that name alone sells tickets, so people will show up no
Sure.
matter what. Just to see how this all connects, especially if we get the return of legacy characters or any kind of multiverse craziness. So,
Sure,
but
but
on the flip side, the Marvel franchise isn't really bulletproof anymore.
yeah.
Like the Marvels didn't do as great as Ant-Man 3, which underperformed, and even Thunderbolts didn't hit that billion-dollar club. So the hype
Yeah,
alone doesn't really guarantee, success now. So,
absolutely.
um,
And like there's things they could try, but then again, like you can only ride so much nostalgia. At the end of the day, you gotta deliver a good product. You gotta
yeah, I
gotta
mean, if go ahead.
yeah, so all good.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, if we get in characters like Doctor, Doom, or big crossovers that actually mean
Yeah.
something, that could reignite the spark. But if it's just a CGI chaos with no heart, yeah, that would be a problem.
Yeah.
So, is Marvel about to bounce back, or are we setting ourselves up for another overhyped mess? That's
I
that's the
don't
true
know.
question.
I know that's the thing. Like I could see it turn out both ways, really.
Yeah. Yeah,
Like
because
I
if Marvel doesn't clean up the timeline and get more focused and stop
yeah.
relying on cameos as the whole plot, people might check out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The cameras, they're only gonna work for so long.
Hmm.
After that, they'll be like, yeah, of course. Now it's a character just, shoved in there and gonna show up for 5 minutes. And they're gonna look for it online. People, they still got their phones with them in the theater. They're gonna record it, and you can just watch it on YouTube. You don't have to watch it on the big screen. And
Hmm.
and what's also a thing, like I don't know if you noticed that, but I think like they got
Hmm.
also really lazy with the 3D. Like beginning of the 3D movies, like you went to the theater,
Hmm.
it had really that depth. You could
Hmm.
have things like flying towards you constantly. They really put an effort
Yeah.
into creating that 3D effect, the depth, but also like how deep the picture looks. You really have that kind of illusion of distance, all that stuff. But then like nowadays, like I watch movies in 3D and I just think, yeah, like the characters a little bit further from each other, but it's like I would
Hmm.
rather watch it without the glasses.
Yeah,
Doesn't
me
make
too.
much
It's completely out
difference.
of touch. Yeah,
and and the
to me, I feel like they complete out of touch. Go ahead.
yeah, and the biggest difference is at the ticket price. You pay more,
And you don't even
significantly
get to
more for
keep
the
your
tickets.
goddamn glasses. Let's talk about that. Why are we not
Mhm.
getting to keep our goddamn glasses? And we paying so much price, so much money to go see a movie in 3D. I went to watch The Lion King a couple months ago
Yeah.
in 3D. And I thought to myself, my eyes were hurting afterwards. I thought to myself, yo, what is this mess? You know what I'm saying? And I had to
Yeah.
return them goddamn glasses. You know what I'm saying? Paying
Yeah.
damn near 17. How much I paid for the tickets? I think it was $30 I paid for the ticket. Oh my
That's
gosh, for
that's
each ticket.
ridiculous. It's
Yeah,
ridiculous.
it was just horrible. So I'll never go back to see a movie in 3D again.
Yeah, but
I'm
that's the
waiting for
thing.
technology.
They
Huh?
they don't even offer you the choice really when you think of it.
Yeah,
I don't know,
yeah,
but especially with the IMAX, they don't have like separate screenings for 2D and 3D.
no,
You gotta watch it in 3D. You gotta pay the price, the extra
yeah.
for I don't know what is it, like 3 to 4
The extra
bucks.
price to
Yeah,
not keep your glasses and to look at the
yeah,
shitty ass movie. I'm sorry, excuse my cursing, but
oh
come
god,
on, guys. You know what I'm saying? Y'all,
yeah,
y'all, y'all need to put more effort onto that 3D, onto the 3D culture, man. You know,
absolutely, because
like
it's cool.
yeah,
It's cool if done right. Like I don't know. I think
yeah.
the first one I watched, like people keep telling me, "Oh my god, you're crazy. You didn't watch Avatar. Like that was that
Oh,
3D movie. You should have seen what that one. I watched the first Transformers with what's it called? Mark Wahlberg. Mark Wahlberg,
Uh-huh.
the first one, and I thought, wow, my god, like the dinosaur scene in the beginning, that was great. That was great.
Mm-hmm.
The little dinosaur was really like it was running, between the aisles of the theater, and I was like, wow, that's crazy. Oh my god, the 3D in
Mm-hmm.
here is awesome. But then like it was like declining. Every new movie
Mm-hmm.
like got less and less impressive. Maybe I got used to
No.
it, but I think they just didn't use too much 3D. The potential of it. They didn't use that well enough, I think.
Mm-hmm.
Well, anyways, um, there's another franchise also using 3D. Did they use 3D with a new one, Final Destination?
I'm not too sure, but I watched it. I didn't watch it in 3D. I don't think they
Okay,
had it in 3D.
I think they
Yeah,
used
I
it
don't.
when
I'm
it
not
got
too sure.
popular around
Yeah.
2010, 11. Like that's when they really pumped out those 3D movies. Yeah. So
Mm-hmm.
how
Well,
was
fine.
how was the latest one? I didn't watch it. Didn't do my homework. I was a bad boy.
Oh man, Final Destination was awesome. You know what? I think it is much more tasteful than before.
Really?
The one that came out in 2006, that
Yeah.
was pretty gore, and back then it was just really gore.
Yeah.
But honestly, this one caught me by surprise, and usually when we think of the movies, we expect crazy over the top death scenes, and
Mhm.
sure there are some of those, but this one felt a little bit different. What really stood out to me was once again the mental health angle, which was very interesting because the main character, the girl with the premonitions, basically, she could
Mhm.
tell that she was going through like. Okay, so basically she was going through a lot. She had these dreams, these vivid dreams that kept on coming back,
Right.
And her grandma, that part hit me, because
Mhm.
she seemed like she was dealing with some kind of PTSD or some kind of paranoia, living alone and always on edge.
Yeah.
That added a real emotional layer, and I think that's what made the movie more impactful, to be honest with you. From the very
Right.
beginning, how they meshed that together. Unlike, the other movie we just talked about, it was a little bit more different, but
Mhm.
that added a real emotional layer to me, and I think that's what made the movie a little bit more impactful because it wasn't just about people dying in wild ways, but there was also tension and fear, and not just the fear of death, but more like the fear of losing control, you know
Right. Yeah.
um and I was kind of like on the edge of my seat, like almost every scene, waiting
Hmm.
for the next death scene to happen. But what I
Mhm.
really appreciated was that the death scenes weren't as gruesome as in the older movies. Those early Destination films honestly freaked me out a bit because, like, I
Hmm.
still get nervous in the shower because of one of
You get
those
nervous
scenes, like
everywhere.
the one in 2006 where they on that roller coaster. Oh my god! And all of this blood and it was gruesome. But
Oh
this
my
time,
god.
the scares were more about suspense than gore, and the
Yeah.
pacing was tight. The acting felt real, and there were some twists I didn't see coming, honestly
Mhm.
speaking. And by the end, I found myself really laughing at the end. I found myself laughing at the end because, not because it was cheesy or anything like that, but because I genuinely enjoyed the ride. Like I really enjoyed the ride. Do you think that they nailed it this time? Did you catch that mental health side too, or
No, no, no. I
is it
didn't.
just
I
me
didn't
reading
catch
into it
much.
too much? Like, what's going on with Hollywood right now? They really tap into mental health, but I
Yeah.
think they got that one right. Like it just it
Well,
just
I
it
mean, if
felt
done right.
natural. Yeah, if you think about it, it felt natural. You know what I'm saying? This
Yeah.
old lady, like all by herself, and she was like, "Oh, you think I'm lying?" And she steps out the house, and I did not expect expect really how it was going to happen, but I was like, oh shoot, like this is really going down like this, like oh my lord, and then her family started thinking that she was crazy, and there was this one scene which I really loved the most. You can actually see it in the trailer too,
Right.
where the glass actually shatters, and it's inside of these ice cubes, and he
Oh,
grabs like
right.
this
Yeah.
this yeah this yeah, he grabs like this big spoon and he puts it in a glass and puts the drink in it, and so throughout
Right.
this
Yeah.
whole entire scene, you're not sure who has the glass in it and who's about to drink it and get their throat sliced open, and only to find out, like how it happened. It was just like it's almost like watching 100 stupid ways to die. You know, I
Yeah.
loved it. I loved it. I mean, for sure. Hey, that was a great movie. I hands down to me. I enjoyed that movie. What about you?
Well, I can only talk about, I guess, Final Destination 1 to 5 because I guess that's all I watched of them. Um, I think like they were trying something new with the latest part. Like I said, I didn't
Hmm.
watch it, but what I heard, like, first of all from you, but also from other people online, because I keep checking here and there. Um, I think they did a really good job, like, with angle from that you actually know the people. You get to know the people, you get invested into the people,
Hmm.
and I think just like with the Thunderbolts, if you are invested in the characters, that is such a powerful thing in a movie or in a series. You don't have to always, up the ante with um bigger CGI deaths with more spectacle. No, like if you're really invested into the characters, like you want them to feel good, you want them to make it somewhere. You don't want them to die. That is such a powerful thing. And maybe they got around to, you know using an alternative to all the CGI and to all the bigger and more gruesome deaths, because there's only so much you can do. Like,
Hmm.
not from Final Destination, but like when I watched the latest Rambo movie, like I just thought at some time, you just watch it and it gets a chuckle out of you, like, haha, like that dude, like, it's like out of some cartoon. It's out of Itchy and Scratchy, like Itchy, I don't know, cuts Scratchy up like a bread, to put some butter on him, put some jam on him, eats him something like ha, like shit like that. That it only goes so far. After a while, you're like, yeah, I've seen that, yeah,
Right.
cool. But like, really, what really gets people, and it will still get people, even like when we're watching movies into a room, like with VR goggles or something like that, when like everything is really maxed out with CGI, like you can't really, uh you know you can't spot the difference anymore with the effects or with AI, like creating movies. Doesn't matter. What really will move people is good characters, bonds
Hmm.
between characters, a good story. That's what's really working when everything else fails. And I think
Hmm.
they went back to that, because like I remember,
Hmm.
I guess the fifth Final Destination, like, it was really over the top deaths. There was so much in there. Bigger,
Hmm.
better. It's just they went all out, and there's only so much you can do. After some while, you just can't top that. So it's actually um it's actually similar with John Wick, really, but who we're going to talk about later on.
Hmm.
You There's only so much you can do with size. You gotta find alternatives. You gotta find new stories, better characters.
Absolutely.
What I think makes a big difference. And
Absolutely.
Final Destination. I watched the first one. I rewatched the first one with my girl, really, and yeah, it was like, I thought it was much scarier. It's like, are they scary?
Yes.
Are they really, are they freakishly horrific? I was like, yeah, I guess so. Like, it can happen to anyone. That's scary, right? It's not
Yeah.
like some 6'6", like, football player chasing after you with a machete. It's not some
Hmm.
ghost, all that shit. Yeah, I mean, the 6 foot 6 by 6, like that dude that could still get you. Yeah, sure, but it's unlikely. The
These
ghost
little
is all
these little
unlikely.
details,
Yeah,
the little details that make these deaths really impactful, I think.
you know,
Final Destination, the one in 2006, with that
uh,
roller coaster, and they were at a fair and stuff like that,
yeah,
um with the camera being stuck on the rail of the I mean, it's these little details that
Yeah,
really matter, to bring these deaths alive, to really make
yeah,
it impactful. And just like you said, what made this movie stand out, I think, was the emotional connection between the characters,
yeah,
and it was, I think a lot of it had to do because it was surrounded or involved. It was basically involved by family, it was just
yeah.
family, and
Family.
the connection was much more profound, and they displayed it as well, for instance, the mother that was not around for so many years, and then she
Right.
popped up, after the grandmother's death. And so, I felt a strong connection with that, and they displayed that with the family members, unlike what was the movie we just talked about, unlike Thunderbolts.
Thunderbolts?
There
Yeah,
was a huge disconnect emotionally. It
yeah.
just wasn't there. And so I agree with you 100%. The connection and the audience being able to connect to these characters is very important, as
It
well as
is.
how the actors display the characters, their roles. And they did a fabulous job. Every single person on that screen, these actors did a terrific, incredible
Yeah,
job.
yeah.
Incredible job. So what would you rate it?
Again, I haven't seen this, but uh, I don't know. What would you rate it? What would you rate it? Let me
Honestly
let me
speaking,
hear what you think.
I would rate it. I would honestly speaking, I would rate it a 8.5.
8.5. Well, that's high.
Yeah,
That's high.
I
And
would rate it a
like with
8.5.
horror,
Pardon me?
like most people just think horror is like a super, niche, low
Hmm.
budget, like low expectations genre, but it's crazy what you can do with it.
Yeah, I think, but
It's
you know what?
absolutely
I think
crazy.
the horror movies back in the days were, ooh, much more scarier than nowadays. That's why
Really?
I was able to watch this because Final Destination back in the days, it was something very scary, very
Yeah.
very scary for a lot of people. Like the horror movies back in the days, it was just I'm thinking to myself, we had some really evil people writing these screenplays. Like, what?
Yeah,
Did you actually
absolutely.
do these crimes or something like that for you to be inspired to? Now, this got to come somewhere. Like, y'all got some darkness in you.
Yeah,
By the name of
absolutely.
Jesus, like no weapon against me shall prosper. I curse you out, devil, with my holy water. But this one was,
Yeah, send
like
a
I said,
priest over.
yeah, send the priest over. The Exorcist. I heard a lot of people still enjoy watching The Exorcist from back in the original one that came out from back in the days,
Yeah.
But
I
this
mean that
one, even the cinematic,
I mean it's also, with the props and all, I guess, like, also on set it must have been super creepy because,
yeah.
they didn't have CGI and all when the doll, like, they made him so realistic.
Hmm.
There's
And
some real
nowadays,
geniuses
everybody
out there.
becomes so. Yeah, nowadays everybody becomes. Let's also be honest when it comes to movies, or
Mm,
even except for music, I guess. But
yeah,
overall, people in this generation are more sensitive about everything, about
yeah,
anything that you say, they're very sensitive about
yeah,
anything. If somebody calls you, such and such, or this word or that word or whatever, like immediately you turn into, they call you a racist or this or that,
yeah, yeah.
so it's like it's you know it's people have been just really sensitive, and I don't think that nowadays this generation would be even able to watch something like from back in the days. I think, yeah, I think people would
Well,
be traumatized. Because
well, it
I was
depends.
traumatized back in the days.
But like really that all that sensitivity, it all comes from different places. Like most of the time what I
Mhm,
see is just they try to finish an argument, they try to like, one up the people and be like, yeah, you're racist, okay, now shut up. And
mhm,
that's just the thing, like that doesn't work like that. If people
yeah,
are being called racist, they don't just take it. I mean, most of the people, like, uh they're just, the real racists, they just think like, cool, like, yeah, of course that's what I am. They're just gonna go even worse,
mhm,
and
yeah,
it's not gonna have the effect what they think. And then for the
yeah,
most people, it's just to shut up some people who don't have a backbone, And
mhm,
through what I've seen through Hollywood, most of the times it was just poorly made characters, and also some hateful viewers. But then again, like the
Mhm.
problem is that there are those hateful viewers, but there's also those people who made like a piss poor character, and
Mhm.
at the end of the day,
Mhm.
both just do damage to the movies. Like the people who can have like an actor of a different skin color or an actress there, and also the people making the piss
Mhm.
poor characters and giving it to people with I don't know, different ethnicity or religion. They're both hurting the
Mhm.
movies. And I thought like what's
Mhm.
really weird is that it's kind of like it was better back in the day. Like you would just
Mhm.
watch a movie and you had like people of all walks of life, all shapes and colors, and it was just
Mhm. Mhm.
they were just good characters. And nowadays it's like,
Mhm.
look, look at our black person. We have a black actor in here. Now we have a
Mhm.
trans
Mhm.
actor in here. Look at us. We're progressive. And that's not progressive.
Mhm. Mhm.
They're just parading them around, and it hurts the movies. It hurts the people as well.
Mhm. Mhm. I think they cause more of a separation than
Yeah.
inclusion. You know,
Yeah.
for our viewers that don't know, but I'm black. My mother is black. My dad is white, so I'm mixed. You know, I got into a situation where I called somebody baby girl. Okay,
Mhm.
a crazy story, but I called somebody baby girl over a situation, and I didn't mean any bad, you know. But immediately somebody jumps into the conversation and calls me a sexist, right? Says I'm provocative and I'm a sexist, you know,
What the
and I
hell?
try to make them understand, you know, it's part of my culture. You know, I didn't mean it in any kind of bad way. You know what I'm saying? So I think that people like to switch the narrative. I think people a lot of times want to make it want to be the center of attention, want to be in control, you know,
Yeah.
never really got attention, you know, and
Yeah.
really want to stir up the pot instead of becoming understanding, you know.
Yeah.
I'm not saying that there's injustice doesn't happen. You know, of
It
course, there's
does. It does
injustice
happen.
everywhere in the world. You know, we're not saying that this is not the case. Okay, but
Yeah.
I think that we need to focus more on inclusion than separation. And
Yeah.
you know, I just don't see how it's going to work if we continue to, you know, create these separate barriers. I think that
Yeah.
individuality does not mean, you know, separation at all. You know, like you can
No,
be
not at all.
individual, you can be unique. You know, it does, but it does not mean separation. And I think that, you know, more and more as we becoming, I guess, progressive, if you want to say it that way, you
Yeah.
know, in the shape, because I think this younger generation just doesn't, the younger generation, they don't even see that. You know, I think the younger generation, they just like, listen, we don't want war, we don't want none of this stuff, you know, we just want
Of
to do
course
our
not.
thing. And I
Absolutely.
think that actually can impact our movies and impact our entertainment, impact this in entertainment industry, you know, what we seen on TV, what we listen to, and so forth. But yeah, I think it definitely it also affects our movies. Look at Snow White. I love talking about Snow White because she's like the perfect example.
Oh my
I don't
god.
mean to troll on her, you know, but you know, I'm just saying like Snow White is like the perfect example where you just, you know,
Ugh.
you have to be careful what you're saying. You cannot sit here
Mm.
and talk about, and mind you, I'm not, no, I don't represent or am supportive of any political party. Okay. I don't care about none of that. But if you sitting here and you saying that you want all Trump supporter to DIE, okay, then that's not good because it will affect the movie because you have a lot of Trump supporter who would go and watch your movie. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, like
So
what does that
especially
have
when
to do with anything? Like
you understand what I'm saying?
go
Yeah.
yeah,
So
of
and
course. Like that's a movie. It's not we're not going to vote. We're not gonna cast our vote. We're watching a movie, all right? And it's
right. You
just
know what
takes
does that
over everything. I know exactly what
right.
you're saying. I'm so tired
And
on it.
that's the problem with people that are i- having these huge platforms. You
Yeah,
know, you would think that what they would do is bring people together and respect everyone for who they are, what they vote, and so forth. But it's just like, and I don't want to take away from the fact that they have their own belief system and so forth. Yes, but you also have
absolutely.
to be mindful
Every
at the
belief.
fact that you have young fans, you have millions of followers. You know what I'm saying, and you should focus more on inclusion than separation. Yeah, yeah, and be understanding and respectful to everybody else's opinion. And I think there's
Absolutely.
just a lack of sympathy in not just in human beings nowadays, but also in the movies. You could tell how the kind of type of movies that we are making. Well, not
Yeah.
we, but Hollywood. It's just
Yeah.
lacking human like emotions and feelings. It's just lacking that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Crazy.
And you
It's
know what?
crazy, but
You're absolutely right. And you know what? That's the perfect crossover because there's someone in the movie industry still getting that and still practicing that. And
mhm.
that, ladies and gentlemen, is Tom Cruise. He
Yes, yes.
might have huge ties to Scientology. I don't support
hmm
that. I don't I've heard lots of bad shit about that a religion, institution, whatever you may call it. But you know what? Like he doesn't talk about it. He just wants to make good movies. And in
hmm
my opinion, he did a great one. And
Yes,
that's Mission Impossible: Final Reckoning. What did you think about that one?
man, man. I'm getting chills. I'm already getting
Yeah,
chills. Just when you said his name, I'm getting chills because man, Tom Cruise. It's been a long time, but you did it
right.
again. You
He
did
did
it
it.
again. This one, the stunts, insane. Like always, Tom Cruise doing Tom Cruise things. That part
Absolutely.
is always fun. I think that. Listen, Tom Cruise did it again. I mean, you can't go wrong with Tom Cruise. But what really surprised me was how
And
emotional, once again, the ending was to me. I did cry too. The way they build up
yeah,
the momentum and the tension in the end, that paid off. It just hit. You really felt like the stakes were massive. Like they
yeah,
literally saved the world. And it wasn't just spectacle, it actually had some heart in it,
yeah.
and you connected with him, you connected with the character. But something very interesting.
What's
There's
that?
this wild part in the movie. There's a moment in the movie where they talked about this high-tech storage device being used to hold the AI, the entity,
Mm,
I think, right?
yeah, that's
Um,
called the
and I
entity.
ended up Googling it after because I was like, is that a real thing?
Yeah.
And that's why I think, when I love movies when there's some type of truth in it. I just love it. And it was a 5D optical drive, and it can store up to
Oh,
300 to 400 terabytes. Yes, the 5D optical drive. I
whoa.
literally paused the movie, when they were on the plane and he was saying, yeah, this is a 5D optical drive. I'm like, huh? What? Okay.
I
So
know
I
what
looked
that
it up,
is. I know what that
yeah,
is.
and that blew my mind. This is like, it isn't just sci-fi because there's an institution actually working on this stuff right now, and it really made me stop and think with how fast AI is moving, and now
Yeah,
storage tech like this being real, and how close are we to all of this being more than just a movie plot? Sometimes it feels like these movies aren't just entertainment. They're kind of giving us a heads up on what's coming. So
yeah.
yeah, I mean, I loved it. What are your thoughts? Did that ending hit you emotionally as well? And like, what do you think is the future headlines to unfold in real time pertaining to this?
Well, you know what? First of all, I know what that storage device is for. It's just for the next 3 years of video games to, have the capacity to just have them on your computer. That's what that for. That's for.
You know what? I actually Googled it, and actually, with this 5D store optical drive, it's actually made out of a specific glass. Okay, and the cool
Okay.
thing about it is you can literally store human history on that on one of these drives. Like
Mhm.
entire history. You can like data, health data, and all of that in a small drive like that. It's fascinating. It's fascinating.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's
And
fascinating.
we gotta
And
send that
games,
to outer
gaming as
space.
well. Gaming as well.
We gotta send that to outer space, so when the aliens pick up, they're like, nah, hard
Yeah,
pass.
but
we're
exactly. But
we're
you know
not
what?
gonna
They
go
talked
there.
about that too. They talked
They're
about it
gonna
too.
leave us
You
alone.
can literally also send it to all. It's durable. It's durable, like heat
Crazy.
resistant. Like it's crazy, crazy. But I enjoy that because I love watching movies where there is some kind of truth to it.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
everything that's going on. The plot was amazing. Let's talk about the plot. What did you think about the plot?
Well, I thought that the plot. I think that the plot is solid. I just think that it has some pacing issues. It definitely has some pacing issues. Like,
Mhm.
but that's like a thing I noticed with the other Mission Impossibles. I guess from the fifth on, I think they were so, focused into planning and all. They kind of showed some scenes beforehand before they were actually happening, and that kind of confused
Mhm.
me also with this one. And yeah, I also like I don't didn't really pick up like how many years had gone by,
Mhm.
all of that. So I was a little confused with that, but like yeah, it's kind of straightforward. Um, but then like there's gimmick. Yeah, you have to do this, you have to do that, and they didn't really go all into explaining why. And that's kind of when you ask me a blessing and a curse,
Mhm.
because it kind of it comes up like it's some bullshit plot device
Mhm.
sometimes, and then like you think there's so much explaining. Then on the other hand, for things that maybe didn't need the explaining, it's really they didn't really find like a good you know a good mixture of how much they're gonna explain one thing that's gonna happen, and on the other hand, like how much to leave out. They
Mhm.
didn't really find a good middle ground, I guess. But
I
yeah,
think that.
the what's
Go
that?
ahead.
Yeah,
I said I think that. Go ahead.
yeah, let you go ahead. I gotta think what I want to say next.
Okay.
Go ahead.
I think
Sorry.
that, when it comes to movies like these, that, you know, it took many, many years for you
Yeah.
to literally like to watch another, run of it.
Hmm.
The best way to go about it is before you actually go see the movies, see the last 4 or 5 ones back to back, and then watch the new one coming out. So you have a refreshment in your brain of what actually had taken place and so forth, so you understand the
Yeah.
flashbacks in the movie.
Yeah.
um I think that that can actually help, because a lot of these flashbacks, I watched them as well, and I was just like, okay, I'm a little bit it's been so long since I've watched the Mission
Right.
Impossible movies, so I was just like, what? I don't remember this. And I just went with the flow. I was just like, well, okay, it is what it is. The music was on point, the cinematography was
Yeah.
on point. The only thing that I didn't really like too much was the at the end, the scene with the plane. I think that fighting scene, that action scene, was dragging a little bit, to be honest with you. But other than that, the ending
Really.
was just that reward, of saving the world. That was just priceless. Yeah. And that whole Russian mission, that
Hmm.
Russian mission with the tank and all of that was great. How they correlated it with the friends being on Antarctica and trying to do this, spoiler alert, trying to do this while he was
Hmm.
underwater. And
Hmm.
I think that itself, like how they meshed the timelines, that was the
Hmm.
suspense. It just the pacing was just perfect in that part for me. I think it really was. It really was.
Okay.
And the scenes, they were a little bit gruesome. I'm not gonna lie.
Yeah.
It was a little bit of gruesome. You seen, yeah, it was a little bit more gruesome than the other two, Thunderbolt
Yeah.
or even Final Destination. Yeah, I mean
Really.
that
More
you were,
more than
yeah. I
Final
think those two,
Destination.
yeah, yeah. I think they were
Really.
definitely more gruesome. Yeah, I think so.
You're not kidding.
Woo.
It's more
Oh,
gruesome than Final Destination. I definitely
yeah.
thought that
I, I think those bloody scenes. I think those bloody scenes. Like I think, yeah, they were a little bit more gruesome.
Okay, I gotta watch that Final Destination.
Yeah.
Okay,
You
well,
do.
yeah, it was my job. Yeah, I had one job. Well,
Yeah.
I'm also on board with you about the tone. I thought it was really dark. It was unusually dark for a for Mission Impossible. Sorry, I because with Mission Impossible, I always had them in mind that they were like this stunts that they had to do. They were like high stakes, of course, but it was always kind of easy going. It was this PG-13 rating, which the new one also has, but I think with this one they were kind of stretching it, and it had like this ominous tone, like like it's also said in my review, like the third Terminator movie, you know, that it's like the end of the world and it's already happening. And also from I kind of had like also tonally was similar. Okay. Where did she go? Okay, the folks, let's wait a little bit. Maybe she'll come back. Oh, there she is.
Disconnected.
All right.
Oh,
Okay.
can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Can you hear me? Okay,
Yeah, I can
excellent.
hear you, but you got your mic on. I don't know if that's intentional. Your camera's on.
My camera's on?
Yeah.
Okay. There
All
you
right.
go. Much better.
Much better. No.
All right,
Yeah.
great. On to the next.
Yeah. As I was saying, like I thought it was also like really dark and also
Mhm,
like I don't know. It was really. It didn't have uh much fun in it like the
mhm,
others. It was all
mhm,
wasn't as you know, eventful with the places. Like you have Antarctica, of course, but and South Africa, but like you didn't see much of that. It was really
yeah,
dark and gloomy, I think, and it was
mhm,
unusual for the Mission Impossible series
mhm,
of films, and I thought that was kind of fitting to the plot, but also like
mhm,
for a Mission Impossible movie, it was kind of weird. It didn't really
mhm,
bother me, and I also in my review I said like, hey, it's really up to you guys. What do you think about? But then again, like, yeah, and totally, it's what I forgot about. Tonally, it also reminded me a lot of The Hunt for Red October. I don't know if you've seen that movie.
no,
Really popular with Sean Connery. You know, end of the '80s. Um, like plot about a Russian nuclear submarine. You know, they want
mhm,
to give it to the states, to the navy there. Um,
mhm,
wants to submit it to the Americans, and there was a scene with the chopper also reminded me a lot of that, and also like the whole idea of the entity. It's really it's really Skynet when you think about it. Like
mhm,
it's an
mhm,
AI wants to enslave and kill big parts of humanity,
mhm,
and it's kind of, you know, of course developed by humans,
mhm,
but then again it takes control itself, you know, of itself, and it wants to do all those things, you know. It reminded me a lot of Skynet, and when I was set in when I was in the theater, I just thought like, hey, what would James Cameron think about that one? What would James Cameron think now? He's like, those those MFers. uh, they should definitely pay me royalties for that idea. I came up with that. Why don't you call it Skynet? That's what I thought. Yeah. But again, like, hey, the heart was there, the characters were there. Personally, I really missed Elsa or
mhm.
Ilsa. She called Ilsa.
Awesome.
Rebecca
Mhm,
Ferguson's character. I really missed her in that one. But then, yeah, of course, like, spoiler alert, you had that sacrifice of hers in the last movie, and of course, like, a meaningful thing would be that she doesn't come back. She
mhm,
got killed. Yeah, but then like Ethan didn't talk about her the whole movie, so that was a little bit strange.
mhm,
Then again, like the stunts in the movie, the characters, Luther, what he did, how important, how essential he was to
mhm,
the plot and to saving the day at the end was all beautifully done.
mhm,
And of course, Tom Cruise, 60s, he's in his 60s. I think he's 61. Not sure
Mhm.
about that one. He's in incredible shape. He's doing those stunts by himself. Um, like I'm actually gonna have to agree with you that the biplane scene, it
Mhm.
was similar like the one on the motorcycle in the last one. You watch it and you think to yourself, oh my god, he did that for real. But then it doesn't
Mhm.
hit that much. It doesn't hit that much.
Mm-mm.
Somehow you watch it, but it doesn't have the effect. For me actually, the most effect had the scene with the submarine.
Yeah.
That's it.
Uh,
I don't know. Like it
yeah,
doesn't make
that was
sense at
dope.
all. But I was there in the theater and I was holding my breath. Like, I was holding my
Where's the
breath. I was like, oh my
oxygen
god,
tank?
oxygen tank. Yeah. Oh my god, that was really incredible. Like I really just needed the edge of my seat. I was there the whole time I was watching. Oh my god, what's gonna come next? It's so
Mhm.
claustrophobic. It it's so deep underwater. I just don't know what I would do. I would just
Mhm.
panic and use up all the oxygen at once. I
Mhm.
guess that's what I would do. It's really it's a good movie, and like people giving them shit like, hey, as far as other movies go
Mhm.
these days, I think they found a really good end. But then again, like, what kind of end are you gonna give this series? Like, for real, they said it also in the last couple of movies. Like, is he gonna live a regular life? I don't think so.
Mhm.
Are they gonna
I think.
all have a yeah?
Go ahead. Are they gonna?
Are they all gonna have a happy ending? I don't think so. That's just not the
Mhm.
reality of how that industry works.
Yeah, and if you think about it, the ending, it still left you kind of like wondering
Yeah,
because he has it now. He has the AI and that, 5D optical drive, right? So it's like, will there be another Mission Impossible, right? And how will that go?
yeah,
Because now he has it. Who's gonna look for him? Is I don't know, Luther going to reappear and I don't know, maybe he's not even dead, like who knows? Like the twists and turns and what they going to actually do, you know.
right, yeah,
Because the ending was done very beautifully, you know,
yeah,
and it definitely left it open for another Mission Impossible to take place in the future. And I would be open to actually watching it. I wonder how
yeah.
much they would put into that budget. Let's talk about the budgeting. Yeah, because the Final
Do you know it?
Reckoning, they estimated, yeah, the budget was estimated between 300 and 400 million, making it
Whoa.
one of the most expensive films ever to be produced. Okay. The box office
Okay.
as of late May 2025, domestic in the US and Canada, approximately $122.6 million, and worldwide total around $353.8 million. So it's a massive budget, but it's
Mm,
still a distance from breaking even. So
yeah. It's just
despite strong global earnings, yeah, the high production costs challenge profitability. So
it's also
you
the
know,
problem, you know,
yeah,
with
and
movies,
the
like they're
final,
not playing as long as they used to.
yeah,
It's the
and the
problem.
financial outcomes of these films could influence the direction and scale of future installments. So,
Yeah,
but
absolutely.
yeah, but
Does
I
that make
think
a
it's
buck?
done
Yeah.
well. But honestly speaking, I'm surprised that the budget was between 300 and 400 million dollars because honestly speaking, you know, I think it's just the fact that the traveling part, going to South Africa,
Yeah.
going to this whole area, that costs money. That's a big chunk for production, to be honest. The flights,
Mm.
the location where they're going to stay at,
Yeah.
hotel, the food, transportation. That's all
Yeah.
part of production
Of
cost,
course.
and
Yeah.
so that I think that is actually takes a big chunk. Even renting out equipment, that
Yeah,
takes
the
a big
IMAX
chunk.
cameras, they're super expensive. They're
Yeah,
super
and
expensive.
you got to
Yeah.
rent those things out. And if
Yeah.
you don't rent it out and you have it shipped, that's going to cost a lot of money. And
Yeah.
then also security that needs to be present, these permits in all these different countries. So I could see why it costs between 300 and 400 million dollars, but at the same time, I'm just like, yeah, nah, nah. You mean to
That's
tell me
crazy.
that you
300.
almost that's crazy. That's
Doesn't have the
insane,
marketing costs in there?
I can ask.
That would
I
be
think, honestly
interesting.
speaking, I don't think that I honestly speaking, I don't think they really marketed that film as much, to be honest with you.
Yeah, they
You know,
didn't. That's true.
so the production budget was 291 million. The
Mm.
marketing budget was between 100 and 160 million. So yeah,
Mm.
you talking between 400 and 450 million
Oh my
dollars,
god,
you
that's
know. So
crazy.
that's crazy. And honestly speaking, I didn't really see a lot of crazy marketing of the movie. You mean
No,
100 between
no,
100 and 160 million dollars for marketing? And the film itself was 290 million dollars? Nah, they didn't really go full fledged with that movie. But you know, you
no.
think about it, their competition was, Final Destination.
Yeah.
What else popped in May?
Well, there's a couple of things. Like of course Thunderbolts. Yeah. Kind of,
Uh-huh.
but it's not really like they had the IMAX spot and then they gave it to, I guess, Final Destination. And like
Mm-hmm.
for real, like most people they're probably gonna catch it in IMAX because you can have like a silver screen at home, like a home theater equipment, all this possible. But
Mm-hmm.
I almost guarantee like nobody has an IMAX. Nobody has an IMAX
Mm-hmm.
like screen at
Mm-hmm.
home. Yeah, like what did it really go up against? Like there's I
Also,
guess
they
there's a
go up
couple, but
against
not that much.
Minecraft. So they go up against Minecraft.
Minecraft, yeah, Minecraft was
And
there.
I didn't like that movie, by the way, but we can talk about this another
Oh,
time for sure. I didn't like Minecraft. Karate Kid, Legends. It went against
oh,
Final
right.
Destination, Bloodlines. It went against. So these are some. If you think about it, these are some top movies right there. You know, especially like Minecraft made like almost nine. Minecraft made
It's the
$946 million.
kids. It's the kids. Trust me. Like the
Yeah.
kids that
What?
kids are gonna want to watch it in theaters. And it's
Wow.
just, like you take your kids to the theater and they'll be quiet, They'll be
Mhm.
entertained
Mhm.
for 2 hours. I guess that's for a lot of parents. They're gonna love that.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
And
Wow, that's crazy.
that is crazy, but yeah, that's definitely the movie to do numbers like that. But then again,
Oh,
like
books
I
too.
guess um Mission Impossible Fallout did it a billion? Did it do a billion?
Mission
I
Impossible
guess so.
Fallout.
I gotta research that. Look that up.
Okay, so Mission Impossible Fallout, it says right here was their budget. Well, that was 2018. So domestic, they made
Right.
220 million. Worldwide, they made 791 million.
Oh,
Internationally,
okay.
so yeah, 791 million. Their estimated budget was 178, between 180 million was the initial budget, and they made 791 million
Hmm,
worldwide. So
okay.
that's not bad, actually.
Which one did none of them did a billion. It's crazy.
No.
I could have sworn like Fallout doing a billion because that one really received uh, really received
It was
like
close.
yeah, and it had like great reception. Yeah. The
Yeah,
people
yeah,
liked it. And also liked it, yeah. Also, but
yeah.
like there's almost none like you could say that the second one's cheesy with all the
Mhm.
slow-mo fights and stuff and all the heavy cocaine doing off the producers and the director. That was crazy. uh,
Well, you know, I can give you a top grossing films over 1 billion. We got Avatar number one,
yeah.
number two, Avengers Endgame, number three, Avatar, number four, Titanic. Then we got Star Wars, Avengers Infinity War, Spider-Man, Inside Out is 8, Jurassic Park is 9, The Lion King, the
Mm.
Avengers again. Also, yeah, I mean, yeah, you got Star Wars here a couple of times, which I know is your favorite.
Yeah, well, the seventh
Mhm.
isn't. Episode 7
Yeah.
definitely isn't. But it did it. But that was like a phenomenon when you look back 2015. Everybody was stoked.
Mhm.
Original characters from the original trilogy coming back and
Mhm.
reprising their roles. Like that was I was hyped. I was hyped through the roof. Oh my god! And then I
Mhm.
watched it.
And then, was
And
it
then
a
I
pop
watched
or a
it.
flop?
For me, it was I was I went home. I was driving home from the theater, and I just thought, what the hell is wrong with me? Why don't I like it? Why don't I like it? I'm
Yeah.
supposed to like this movie. I hyped it for almost 2 years. When they announced it, I watched every trailer religiously. I really loved everything prior to it. What they put out, I liked it. I thought this is gonna be like surefire thing, but then like
Mhm.
it didn't hit the right notes. And it was just
Damn.
so all over the place.
That
Uh
internal conflict
yeah,
was real, huh?
yeah, I was. Yeah, well, but since we're talking about like expectations, what do you think like Ballerina? What do you think it's gonna be like?
I'll be honest with you. I watched the trailer and I
Mhm.
did not like it. I did
What
not
didn't you
like
like
it.
about it?
Everything. Everything. Have you ever seen, yeah, yeah, for real, for real. Have you ever seen Colombiana?
Yeah, I watched that one. It's great.
You seen Colombiana?
Yeah.
Exactly. And so, when I watched the trailer, I really wasn't feeling it. It really gave
Mhm.
me like strong Colombiana vibes,
Mm,
and to me, that's not a good thing because Colombiana was amazing. The story of a girl going after her father's killer, it was emotional, it was powerful, and it
yeah,
was done very, very well. It had a heart and grit. But from watching the trailer of Ballerina, it looks like they're trying to tell basically the same story. A young woman out for revenge, but it feels less like original and kind of like predictable,
mm,
and the action in the trailer didn't stand out to me. It felt like they were trying to copy the John Wick style without the same level of intensity or creativity. And yeah, Kanu
yeah.
was supposed to be a cameo, but I'm skeptical how much they'll actually add. If they're counting on him to carry the movie or
Mm,
still every scene, that's a red flag to me. It feels like they might be relying on his name more than the story or the lead actress to make this work. And so
yeah.
overall, I'm worried that this is going to be another spin-off that just doesn't live up to the hype. What do you think? Do you think I'm
Well,
being too harsh, or do you see the same red
mm,
flags? Like I
well,
hope I'm wrong, yeah, but I'm
the
leaning
thing
toward a
is,
flop on this one.
I think that it having like similarities to Colombiana doesn't have to be that it's bad. The thing is, how good is the character? How good is her character? Because like
Hmm.
from what I can see, like yeah, the fight scenes, yeah, they look okay. They're not really special because that's also the problem. We've seen so much with the John Wick franchise. Like they're constantly trying to reinvent themselves, but then again, like
Hmm.
there's only so much you can do, you know? After a while, that's what we've been talking about, earlier. There's only so much you can do, bigger, better, faster, bloodier. There's only so much you can do. You got to start with a good story. You got to start with good characters. And I don't know, they've shown the fight scenes, and they want to lure you into the theater, showing you some good fight scenes. But especially like with a John Wick franchise, I think what's been lacking since, I guess, like the first movie is that you don't have the stakes. The stakes aren't that high
Hmm.
because he's wearing that bulletproof suit, and he gets hit by 5 different cars, and he's still running. So you kind of have the impression, I think the guy, he's got like God mode on. He's invulnerable,
Hmm.
and that takes the stakes off. If you have a guy that's hurting, has several bullet wounds, and slowed down, and can die, that makes it different. That makes it fresh. That makes it, you have you're invested in that character. You don't want him to die, so you're happier when he wins against,
Hmm.
or when she wins against uh, um, uh, one of the bad guys. But like when they're just mowing through waves of bad guys and nothing happens, it doesn't have that same, you know um, dopamine rush that it would
Hmm.
have if the
Hmm.
stakes were higher, if you have that. And I guess it all comes down to how good her role is. And even if he has like a big cameo in there, that's not good, because the movie's about her, and him like stealing her limelight. That wouldn't be great either, because then you could just watch another John Wick movie. It has to be about her. She has to be a good character, and it can
Hmm.
work. It can work. but they really need to focus on her. And at the time of with the marketing, what they're showing, I really don't think that they have much confidence that she will be able to carry the movie. And I
Mhm.
think I think for some reason it also has to do like it's Ana de Armas is like that's the actress name, right?
Mhm.
She doesn't really look like she could do all that stuff. And maybe
Mhm.
that's just my view. Maybe that's, if you told me like there's a new John Wick spin-off coming out and it has uh Gina Carano, I would say
Mhm.
definitely, because like she used to be like I guess MMA, mixed martial arts, right?
Mhm.
It used to be her thing. And she's
Mhm.
she's just got the mass, she's got the muscles and all to do that, to pull it off. And you can imagine like if somebody's like talking to her the wrong way, she could break somebody's jaw. She's
Mhm.
able to do that. And with Keanu, like, yeah, he's a humble guy, he's got his thing going on, like, how are you doing? Yeah. You're breathtaking.
Mhm.
But the guy is tall. The guy's got some muscle. And you can just see it from the Matrix, all that training, he can pull it off. And it's
Mhm.
always about, is it believable? Um but and then you have those small characters, throwing um guys twice their size, and you just think, and then it's always in universe rules, like, do they have like some superpowers? Then of course, yeah, they have superpowers.
Mhm.
There's a reason, like, they make like characters who are strong also visually strong.
Mhm.
It's just easier to remember that they're strong. And and I think it's like all of that combined, like the actress, like, is the character any good? Like, does she have a strong backstory?
Mhm.
Or like the motivation, her motivation, all of that, it plays a huge role. And I think if they nail that, they can do even sequels to it. It's all up to them. But like them showing so much of John Wick and be like, here we have Keanu in this spot, and then we have him there, and he's always kind of overshadowing wherever she goes. It's not a good sign, because he's
Mhm.
when you have Keanu in there, you're not gonna watch out for her. You're gonna watch out for him, because he's John Wick. He's a legend. And when John Wick came out with the sequels, like, they manifested a really profitable and good franchise. And when you tell somebody, oh my god, like, been killing people all over the place like Rambo, they know, oh yeah,
Mhm.
Rambo the movie, we know that. And nowadays, I guess kids, they would rather say, did you see that one? He was shooting and fighting bad guys and killed them like John Wick. And everybody knows, of course, John Wick. So it's so deep seated into people's minds that they
Mhm.
instantly know, oh, John Wick, of course, those movies. It's in the style
Mhm.
of John Wick. It's they actually made it. And it's important that they not go with the fights and all. They have to go with her character, her motivation. I mean, with this
Mhm.
genius with the first John Wick movie, they killed this dog.
I was just gonna say.
They killed this dog. Like, nobody in
Yeah,
this world would say like, yeah, the dog deserved it. They're like, fuck
right.
those guys.
Yeah,
Like, they gotta pay for what they did to the dog. They gotta pay.
yeah,
So whatever
yeah.
kill frenzy does after that scene, it's
But that's the
justified.
thing, he lost his wife, someone kills his
Yeah,
dog, and he just snaps. It felt
yeah,
personal.
yeah,
You were with him every step of the way because you
yeah,
understood the pain, the anger,
absolutely.
the why behind everything.
Yeah,
But now I think we're on these movies and they hitting into spin-off, and I think it feels like it's just like the stylish shout outs, and cool
yeah,
lighting. The emotional core is basically fading. Because John
yeah,
lost already everything: his wife, his freedom, his poor dog. Like what else is left for him to lose? The stakes feel kind of flat now. Like you
yeah,
said, the
yeah,
stakes feel very, very flat now. And
Yeah.
I think the problem is that the franchise, um, I feel like with the franchise is running out of fresh ideas and
Yeah.
confidence. It's now all about style and substance. You know,
Yeah.
the earlier John Wick movies, raw, they were personal, it made you want to care. Like
Yeah.
John was like this almost mythical peak figure. There you go.
Figure.
Figure was
Yeah.
the word I'm
Yeah.
looking for. Figure.
Yeah.
But he was also vulnerable. Driven by loss and revenge. And now it's just nonstop action with less emotional weight. It feels like they don't really believe in the story anymore. Like they banking on just dope ass fight scenes, and that's it.
Yeah.
And so Ballerina, it gave me that, like I said earlier, like been there, done that vibe. That's the whole young
That's the
woman seeking
problem.
revenge for her father's death story. Like that's been done way better before, like better before. That's why I mentioned Colombiana, and that
Yeah.
movie nailed the mix of action and emotion. So Ballerina just feels like a copycat trying to ride John Wick's coattails without having the same heart or energy. So yeah, I think
Yeah.
that they don't have confidence in building a strong story anymore or original story anymore. You know, they just hoping that the name will bring people in, and honestly, I'm not convinced it will be enough. So I don't think that this spinoff that I think it'll flop. It's not bringing anything new to the table, and the main series
Right.
itself it's losing that spark that made it special in the first place. So yeah, no, I'm
Yeah.
not convinced of that.
Yeah. Well, I guess we'll see about the movie. I think it's coming out in a couple of days. I'll be watching it.
Yes, we
um.
will.
Yeah. But I guess with what we were saying. You're right on. I think it's yeah, we've seen it before, and it also shares that problem with Mission Impossible. Like, hey, hats off to Tom Cruise for what he's doing. Like, other people would definitely use CGI or would use, I don't know, some studio where it's all secure. He's actually hanging from a biplane. He's
Mhm.
actually climbing Burj Khalifa, the tower. He's
Mhm.
actually doing the halo jump. He's all doing that. The problem is we've seen so much, we're kind of oversaturated. We're
Mhm.
it's like we're watching it, we're like, okay. And first, like I felt so ashamed for myself. I sat in the theater, watched the previous one,
Mhm.
Dead Reckoning, where he jumped off the cliff with a motorcycle, and I was like,
Mhm.
okay, yeah, that's a cool scene. And like we should have been like awestruck. We should have been like, oh my god. But it kind of went so fast. And so you're so
Mhm.
used to all the stunts he's doing. It's kind of like you say, yeah, of course he's doing that. And I think that's really really sad, but that's just how it works with the content. You're overexposed to it, and with the time you just yeah, you're doesn't have that effect on you anymore.
Mhm.
You're being used to it, and with John Wick, like I said earlier, with the fights and all, they only go so far, and for them to
Mhm.
be able to pull that off, they really gotta come up with something special. But we'll see. So what else are you looking for movie wise? Do you have something on your radar there?
I have nothing so far on my radar. I do want to point out that actually Ballerina,
Mhm.
um, that will actually be produced by Lionsgate. I just looked it up right now.
Oh,
Which is interesting.
did
And
they do the
Mission
other two?
Impossible for John Wick.
Wasn't that the one with the Ferris wheel? Like the one intro with the Ferris wheel, the studio that did that. Wasn't that like what's that studio called?
Well,
Thunder
for
Road? Was it Thunder Road? Not sure about that.
mm, I'm
I,
not
I guess
sure, but for John Wick, it was usually Summit Entertainment, which is a Lionsgate label, and
okay.
8711 production. So for all the John Wick, it has been Lionsgate. I looked
Oh,
up
okay.
right now. Sinners was actually interesting. Sinners was actually produced by Qualified Society Production and was distributed by Amazon Studios as an original film. I didn't know that.
Oh,
It was that's interesting. Yeah, Mission Impossible was Paramount Pictures, and
yeah,
Paramount Pictures usually does great movies, but
yeah,
I don't know what's going on with Lionsgate. Thunderbolts, Marvel Studios, of course, under Disney. Yeah. And Final Destination was New Line Cinema. Yeah.
yeah. Right.
Mm, interesting, interesting, interesting. Well, we will
Well,
see. We shall see.
we shall see. Yeah, I mean, there's actually a couple of things still being released this year. I guess it's also Jurassic World is being released,
Okay.
a new one after some time. With I
Mm-hmm.
guess it's even with here Black Widow, what you call it, Scarlett Johansson, I think, is in there.
Okay.
Yeah, they're trying to get something off the island again, and as usually, it's a bad idea.
Yeah,
Yeah,
Jurassic World Rebirth. You talking about? Okay.
Rebirth.
Okay.
Yeah, exactly. Jurassic World Rebirth. My God, I forgot how to talk. Jurassic World Rebirth. Yeah. Well, it's oh my God, there's so many sequels coming on. It's crazy. Sequel after sequel. Sequel mania. What do you think about that?
I'm not too sure. I don't think I've seen that one.
Now, what do you think? Like generally with all sequels
Well,
coming
Final
up.
Destination was cool. I think um they should do a Sinner sequel. I
Really?
would be down watching that. Yeah, I would be down watching the Sinner sequel, to be honest with you,
Hmm.
because the first one. But then again, the first one was so good. It might just be best just to leave it like that.
But what are they gonna do it about? That's the thing. Like spoilers here again, folks.
You know the
But
the
like,
the, the
what are they
great
gonna
thing, if
do
you think
there?
about it, they could literally turn this into an amazing spinoff,
Ah,
as
spin-off.
in
Yeah, they could do
that
spin-off. True.
because you know how at the end he was like traveling through time, almost like there was a scene
Yeah.
where they was like traveling through time, and the music, how impactful the music was and so
Yeah.
forth. They can literally use that part, and they do now another Sinners, but based in the 90s, because the last at the end, that's a spoiler alert. At the end, the main character, he was older, sitting at a bar, and then you
Mhm.
see
Yeah.
basically, his brother, younger self, walking into the bar,
Mm.
with a young lady, and he had hip hop clothes on for the 90s, and
Right.
you could turn it into like a, time capsule type of thing, how music has been impactful, and demon can be used as a demonizing weapon, spiritual
Right.
warfare, spiritual weapon, and so forth. I think that would be dope. Michael
Yeah.
B. Jordan, hit
Absolutely.
me up. I might have
Yeah.
something for you.
Absolutely. He's gonna write you a great script. I know that one.
Yeah, that's
I
it.
just it was
Yeah.
just like the you know I guess it was last year. Like we were on a car ride together, and you pitched me like one of your movie ideas. And I just thought to myself, "Oh my God! Like I would never come up with an idea like so
Yeah.
complex, but also like it works. Just you just from hearing it, it's a really good premise. It really
Mhm.
works. That's
Mhm.
just thought that's really a gift. It's a really a gift when you can come up with great ideas like that, and also like a
Mhm.
really good plot.
Thank
Yeah,
you. I think a lot
yeah,
of it has to do with staying in touch and not be out of touch, but staying in touch
absolutely.
with people around you and being open to having conversations with people, because they inspire you. We get our inspiration from nature, from people, from
Yeah,
music, from all of that. And if you open to listen and not be reluctant, but rather open to listen somebody's life story, you get inspired by that. And
yeah,
sometimes it's like crazy stories you hear. I lived in the States for many years, Miami, New York, and now I'm
mm,
back in Europe. And so, you come across so many different people. I drove Uber for quite some time. So I had a lot of times different people in my car with crazy stories, and that
mm,
inspire you. And that's why we talked about that the last podcast, is that Hollywood movies nowadays feel so out of touch. They missing the spark, because I think all of these Hollywood execs and some of these directors or screenwriters, they just sit there, instead of going out, because they think they all up on that ladder, and and they don't have to go out and gain some type of inspiration or whatever it is that they lack, and they lack in life. That's what they
That's
lack
true.
in, many of
That's
them.
true.
They lack in life. And that's why you have now a wave of independent filmmakers just killing the industry right now. I mean, they
Absolutely.
doing the damn thing, you know, it's incredible. You go to what's that site? It's not Netflix. They have this Tubi. And
Tubi, right?
yeah,
Tubi,
you see
Tubi.
some movies. Yeah, Tubi. Shout out to Tubi. And by the way, Tubi, if you listen to this podcast, or if our people in the chat, you know, like, y'all need to hit up Tubi and tell Tubi they need to start being ready and active here in Europe, here in Germany, because we have incredible filmmakers out here, you know, and we need a platform like that. You know, we
Absolutely.
really need a platform like that that allows us to distribute our films, you know, on a platform like that, you know, because I can't afford a VPN right now because I'm just struggling screenwriter to upload my stuff up, you know, on Tubi USA, because I need a VPN. I have to go cut corners and all of that stuff. And, you know, but sometimes you got to do what you got to do. But, you know, you have a wave of independent filmmakers right now doing that thing, and they need these platforms, you know, and that's why people rather want to see here, watch something on Tubi, you know, with a crappy audio quality or film quality, but the storyline is so good. They drawn into it.
Yeah, it's
Conversations
all story.
are raw
All
and
story.
natural, you know, and so, you know, I think if Hollywood doesn't catch up right now and is becoming more inclusive and open, you know, and stop this whole, you know, gatekeeping,
Yeah,
you know, then they actually will be making more money, you know. They gotta give opportunities to the younger generation, because we have
absolutely.
great filmmakers out there. Great filmmakers out there. Instead of, you know, now you have these film festivals like the Cannes Film Festival that just happened
Yeah,
not too long ago. And now it's becoming something that just is is more like an exclusive event. Only like
it
a
is.
certain
Yeah,
people with a lot of money, you know, like you gotta pay $2,000, $3,000 for a ticket to go in there, you know, like what?
it's out of
And
touch.
wear designer clothes, you know, it's very out of touch, you know, it's very out of touch, you know. And the worst thing is for screenwriters, they need to get paid more in the industry, because these screenwriters, they come up with the ideas. And the worst thing about it, especially in Germany, don't get me started,
Mm,
is you
mm,
cannot get grants or funding, okay, if you are not in connection with a production company. So
mm.
it's crazy. It's crazy. You know, like, how as a screenwriter am I supposed to be in contact with a production company? Now I have, of course, I have connection with production companies here, but there's a lot of people out here that don't, and they have amazing stories, and they cannot get funding for their movies because they only want to get funding to production companies that they've been connected with for so many years.
They don't want to get burned. I get that, but then again, like you gotta let in some new blood. You gotta let in
Yeah.
some new blood to really enrich the scene, you know. And
Hmm.
you really see that there's so many people gatekeeping, and they're trying to come up with new stuff, but they're so long in the game that they kind of they detached from what the world is really like there out there.
Hmm.
And the only way to actually overcome those obstacles is to look for new talent and go bold. You got to go
Hmm.
bold with a low budget.
Yeah.
And
And that's what
I
people are
get it that they
doing.
don't want to lose money, but they don't really have to like make way for the Robert Rodriguez kind of guys.
Yeah.
Come up with like a really like really small budget, but like they tell stories. They got the creativity. They got the mind for it, and make way for those people. But
Hmm.
let's see what the future will bring. And
Let's see also about Fantastic Four, July
yeah,
25th.
absolutely. That's also coming up. How could I
Yeah,
forget about that one?
Fantastic Four. Let's not forget about that. I'm excited for Fantastic Four. We'll see. We'll see.
We'll see. Okay, but I think that does it. We're almost here for 1.5 hours, and yeah, I think we got nothing in the chat. Always come up with questions if you got something. If you got like what we should do, what we shouldn't do, recommendations, all that. Hit us up in the chat. We're gonna read it.
Absolutely.
But I guess like that's a great moment to end like the stream. As always, like really grateful that you're supporting me here. That you're being great co-hosts. Like I'm really happy about that. And I don't know, tell the people where they can find you.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for your kind words, first of all. And yeah, Intimate Moments podcast on YouTube. And then on Instagram, you can hit me up at Director Ats. That's ATZ, Director Ats.
That's awesome. And of course, like you can find me on YouTube and also on Instagram at Cranky at the Movies. Not really doing too much on Instagram. I gotta work on that one, but yeah, you can always find me on YouTube. Check out my
Great.
reviews. All right.
Hell yeah.
And again, thank you so much. It's really been fun talking to you. And
Absolutely.
yeah,
We see
I
each other
guess
next time.
next live stream. Bye.
Yes. Bye.